What's going on, YouTube? My name is Anthony Russo, back for another video. Now today I'm actually changing it up. I am not doing an NFL video, and I can imagine your sad faces right now. But I will not be doing an NFL video today, mainly because I want to save all the Super Bowl related videos for this weekend and next week. So I have decided, I did want to make a video, and I've decided to do a Royal Rumble prediction video. Now, I am a WWE fan. I'm not as much a fan as I was when I was younger, but I still will watch it from time to time. I'm aware of the majority of the storylines that have been happening on Raw and SmackDown. The Owens-Jericho-Reigns feud happening on Raw. Cena Styles on SmackDown, Cesaro and Sheamus versus Anderson and Gallows for the tag titles. The women's division, you have Bayley and Charlotte versus Charlotte and Bayley versus each other, and then on SmackDown you have Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch having a confrontation, and Mickie James returning a couple weeks ago. So I'm aware of the majority of the main storylines, and so I wanted to make this video to give you who I think is going to win the Royal Rumble matches. So first, I'm not going to go in order. I'm just kind of going to do the ones that I'm most interested in, and I remember. So the tag titles, I'll do that first. The Raw tag titles. You have Cesaro and Sheamus, as I said, versus Anderson and Gallows. Cesaro and Sheamus and Anderson and Gallows have had a lot of matchups, whether that be in singles competition or tag matches. They had a tag title match a couple weeks ago that ended in a dusty finish. So that it will be interesting to see. Anderson and Gallows have actually looked very good, even though they haven't been able to win the tag titles since debuting on Raw. I'm gonna pick Anderson and Gallows. I actually think they will win. I think there's a bit of a controversy if they do win, given that Cesaro and Sheamus, who ended the New Day's astounding over 480-day run as tag champions. I'm sorry, not 480. No, what was the number? I don't remember. Whatever the number is, I think it was like 280. Or maybe it was 480. Whatever the number was. It was the record, whatever it was. I'm not as WWE fan as I was. But anyway, they set the record for longest reign, whatever that is, and so Cesaro and Sheamus just took the titles off of them very recently. They've only had it a couple months, so it would be kind of weird to take them off of it quick. But I think given that we just saw this very long reign from the New Day, it would be kind of nice to see the titles changing hands more quickly and perhaps sudden and shockingly. So I'm going to go Anderson and Gallows. I think it's their time to win, and I think they should head into WrestleMania as tag champions, especially because we've seen the Styles, AJ Styles, being WWE champion for the last few months. It's nice to see these guys, from the indie circuit and from Japan, making an impact in WWE, and I think WWE has realized that keeping that trend going is what's best for business, no pun intended. So I think Anderson and Gallows wins that matchup. Moving on to the Cruiserweight Championship. Now, I have watched one 205 Live. I watched I can't even say that. I've watched a match or two from 205 Live. I haven't even watched the whole broadcast. So it's Rich Swann defending against Neville. I'm fairly confident in this pick. I'm going to say Neville wins. He's looked very great since returning as a heel. And no disrespect to Rich Swann, but I think giving Neville the title really bolsters the credibility of that division, the Cruiserweight division and 205 Live, and it really it makes them more interesting, especially to the casual fan. Neville has more credibility than Rich Swann does to the casual WWE fan, who many will remember Neville from NXT and back when he was on Raw a while back as a face. So I'm gonna say Neville wins that one in fairly convincing fashion. I not that I say Swann will get squashed or anything, but I think Neville wins it in a good matchup. Moving on to the six women's, I should say. They're no longer divas. The 6 women's tag match. It is Alexa Bliss, Mickie James, and Natalya taking on the team of Naomi, Nikki Bella, and Becky Lynch. I think the heels take it. Bliss, James, and Natalya. The return of Mickie James plus Alexa Bliss being champion. I think it makes the most sense for them to win, and I also think it really helps give that heat to Mickie James. Having her return as a heel, it really makes her. She has credibility. As she has a very high-profile career, but to the newer, younger fan, they may not be aware of exactly how influential she was back in the 2000s. So I think putting her right in the mix with all the top people. I think we see her pick up the pinfall on Becky Lynch. I think that's what happens, and I think the heels win this matchup. Moving on to the Raw women's matchup, Charlotte versus Bayley. I think this is a tough one. I think we're gonna build towards Sasha, Charlotte, Bayley at WrestleMania. I think that's what's going to happen. And I think to do that, I think it's best to keep Charlotte as champion. I would not be surprised if there's any type of shenanigans. Dana Brooke, who kind of has been on and off as her assistant, but then went away, but then came back, and she didn't really have a place in the storyline, but she was there anyway. It was kind of weird. I'm going to say off of some type of shenanigans, whether that be a Dana Brooke interference or some type of referee controversy or pinfall tapping out but didn't tap, whatever. Something to that effect. I think Charlotte retains and heads into WrestleMania as women's champion. Moving on now to the Universal Championship match, Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. Based on my Royal Rumble pick, who I will get to later, I think we're going to see. I think this has a strong chance of being my wrong pick. Honestly, I am not confident in this pick as I am in my other picks. But I think given the circumstances, I'm going to say that Kevin Owens does not retain and that Roman Reigns wins the Universal Championship. Not necessarily what I want to happen, but I do think that giving Roman Reigns... If Jericho hadn't won the U.S. title, which I think shocked a lot of people, but in a good way, I may have changed this, but I think Reigns wins it. I think we see him head into WrestleMania as Universal Champion, and he will face the winner of the Royal Rumble, who I will get to later. SmackDown's heavyweight champion Styles Cena. I'm really excited for this match. This match to me is going to be a great match. This is the third time they've met. Styles has won both encounters. And this has been, I think this is the strongest in terms of their storyline and the history that they've had over the past few months since they were put on SmackDown, and even before that when they were fighting. But this is the strongest storyline, and this has the best chance to be the best match, not including the Rumble match. So I'm going to say, based on that, I can't see Cena losing 3 times to Styles, and I don't think that'll hurt Styles in any major way. But I think we see Cena as the new World Heavyweight Champion. Now, it is slightly disappointing that we're gonna have Reigns and Cena, two of the biggest forced baby faces in the company, and fans have grown weary of both of them. Although lately we've seen this new alternative Cena, not really alternative. He's more like going back to what he was in the mid 2000s and early 2000s when he was the doctor of thugonomics, and he was rapping, and he did more of the "you can't see me's." So it kind of sucks, but I think the stories make sense to have those guys win, especially the Cena one. I think having Cena win in his third match with Styles, I think it makes sense to me, especially given the direction that they're heading in with Cena. So I'm going to wrap this up with the Royal Rumble match. Again, I know I don't think I covered every match, but I'm just trying to do the main ones, the ones I'm most interested in. The Royal Rumble match, I think all of us agree, those who know the history of the Royal Rumble, that this has the potential to be the best Royal Rumble in quite some time. I would even argue this is the most stacked. I would even say this is more stacked than back in 2001, which a lot of people are comparing this to. I think it's even bigger than that. I would say 92 is what you have to go back to find a bigger Rumble, more stacked Rumble. And trying to pick a winner in this Rumble, again, I think compares to 92, where you could have seen legitimately 6, 7, maybe even 8 people that you could honestly see winning and not really have a major problem with. So, who do I think is going to win the Royal Rumble? I think let me do this. I'm going to say my final 4, and then I'll give you from there on what I think will happen and who I think will win. So my final 4 to me is going to be Chris Jericho, Goldberg, Undertaker. I don't know why I forgot. I had it in my head, but I didn't want to say it. Jericho, Goldberg, Undertaker, and Sami Zayn. That's my final 4. And again, I would not be surprised if this is totally wrong, not even close. I am aware that is 4 Raw people, but I think given not just that Raw has more people, because they're a longer show and more talent, and honestly, I don't even know if you can classify Undertaker as a quote unquote Raw guy. He's kind of just a guy that's there. And Goldberg's not really a Raw guy either. He's made all his appearances on Raw, but he's not a Raw superstar. He's not on the Raw roster. He's just kind of there. Again, but I am aware it's 4 people that we see really exclusively on Raw, except for really Undertaker. But that said, I think Sami Zayn as the Iron Man probably won't enter at number 1. I think him entering at like 3 and maybe pulling a Ric Flair. I'm not saying he's going to win, but pulling a Ric Flair type of run, lasting for about an hour. I think will make him defeating Rollins worth it, for lack of a better phrase. So seeing him in the Final Four and making that type of long run, I think makes a lot of sense, and I would like to see that for him, because I kind of feel like even though he's had the rivalry with Strowman and he's looked good in that rivalry, and he's played up that underdog mentality and role very well, I do think, given his talent, that he has been underutilized, and I would like to see him, maybe not fighting in the main event of WrestleMania, but being notable and having a main event level to him. I don't feel like you look at Rollins and Reigns and Owens and Jericho and those guys who are in the main event scene week in and week out. And yes, Zayn beat Rollins last week, but I don't think we're not going to be seeing Zayn walk out of WrestleMania as WWE Champion, and that to me is disappointing. So Sami Zayn, Jericho, Goldberg, Taker. That's my 4. I think after that we will see Jericho eliminate Sami Zayn, and then I think we will see Undertaker eliminate Goldberg. It will come down to Chris Jericho versus Undertaker, and I think in what may be very shocking, but I think will make sense, I think Chris Jericho wins the Royal Rumble. And to build on that, I think we will see at WrestleMania a triple threat between Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, and Chris Jericho. Now, we've seen obviously over the past few weeks the not quite breakup, but you start to see the cracks form between Jericho and Owens. And so I think that that rivalry will be there, and then Reigns, who again I think will win the title. He's been in the storyline to losing his U.S. title to Jericho, and then the constant interferences and all of that. So I think Chris Jericho wins the Rumble. I think he has a lot to gain from winning the Rumble. And it'll be interesting to see what they will do if they take the U.S. title off of Jericho before WrestleMania, or if they decide to do a unification triple threat match, which I can't recall if there's been one off the top of my head, but I think that's something that we don't get to see. Even if there has been one, it's something we don't get to see very often. So that would be interesting. So I think ultimately Jericho wins, and then Cena Taker is not looking likely, but I'm still going to hold out hope that maybe that happens for the world title at WrestleMania. If not Taker challenging Cena, I think you could even see maybe another Styles match, but that doesn't really, I don't see that happening. I think the biggest challenge with my prediction is finding who will face Cena for the world title, because I don't think that would be Styles. Maybe The Miz, if they decide to really push him in the next couple months, which let me say a quick thing about The Miz. I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. I really think I think fans crap on him, you know, and he deserves some crap, but like not for his in-ring ability is very good. And I don't think I think he's very underappreciated. You know, when I watch him on SmackDown and when I watch him in pay-per-views, you know, he usually puts on a really good match, and maybe it's just, you know, maybe I'm misjudging, you know, other fans, but I don't think Miz gets the appreciation that he deserves. I would not be upset if he was in the world title match at WrestleMania. You know, he's been there before, and he put on a great match when he was. And then for some reason, he was kind of thrown by the wayside. And then, you know, the Miz Sandow thing was kind of it was one of the top storylines and top, you know, recurring moments on Raw when it was happening. But even then, Miz wasn't really, you know, an established main event guy when he was doing that. He was kind of more of a mid-card whatever. And you know, he's a 7-time Intercontinental Champion, and yeah, it's only Intercontinental titles, and those are mid-card. But I think between the increased credibility of the IC title that we've seen over the last year or two, and then also the fact that, you know, Chris Jericho's built a career off of winning the most IC titles out of anybody. So, you know, Chris Jericho's put in the main event scene every time he returns because of his IC titles and you know, and being the first undisputed champion ever. That's his goal. Yeah, Miz was a former WWE champion, but that just kind of seems to fall by the wayside when we talk about, you know, the Miz's career. You know, we bring up the tag titles and the Miz and Morrison thing, and then back when, you know, and then we'll talk about when he won the title, but it kind of loses sight when you get to, you know, when Cena and The Rock had their thing, and then kind of just, you know, again threw Miz by the wayside. So I don't feel like he gets the respect he deserves. But nevertheless, I'm gonna wrap this up. I think Jericho wins. I think we see Reigns, Owens, Jericho triple threat at Mania. The other big question is what's going to happen with Rollins. My best guess is he steals someone's entrance. He pulls a Mick Foley from back in 2004 or 2005 when he knocked out Test and came to the ring and took out Orton. I don't think it's going to be that quick for Rollins. I think he'll be in there longer, but I think, you know, I think he'll take out a SmackDown guy, maybe like an Apollo Crews, although he's a face, but I don't think that's going to matter in that situation because I think people will just be so excited to see Rollins in that matchup. So I think like around like 10 or 11, I think we'll see Rollins knock out. Again, I think it's going to be a SmackDown guy. Apollo Crews makes sense to me. You know, someone you know isn't going to win, but can kind of play off of that going into, you know, their shows, going into the shows to follow after the Rumble. All right, so let me know what you guys think of my predictions. Again, I don't claim to be, you know, as know-it-all on WWE, but I try to keep up with it as much as I can. But, you know, I'm usually out at nighttime doing things. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section. And be sure to hit me up on Twitter. And I just spilled my water. Yay. I'll totally deal with that later. And you notice I just put my glasses on because I'm going to go out in a minute. Alright. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. Give me any feedback possible, positive, negative. Works for me. Thanks for watching.